Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga with Heini. I'm Heini, and this week I'm going to take you through a calming practice for nighttime. We have a few just very simple poses, and we're more going to focus on breathing. I'm going to take you through little tips and tricks that you can use for yourself, maybe when you're going to sleep or just anytime you want to or you need to calm down. Let's get started. You could do this practice in your bed if you are going to sleep after this, but you could do this at any time, to be honest. Maybe on your mat, maybe just on the floor. You don't need a special space, just a bit of space around you and possibly a couple of pillows. If you have something soft like pillows, yoga bolsters, maybe even just folded blankets, something that you could use as a little bit of support for these poses, they might be nice. But you can also do this practice without any props. That's almost always an option. I'm going to use these couple of pillows as an example. Before we get started, we're going to end the practice in silence. I'm going to just slowly fade myself away. So before we start, if you think this is a good idea and you might like the video, please click the thumbs up button now before we even start. Or maybe come back tomorrow if you like the practice and then click the thumbs up and leave a comment below. Let me know how this practice went for you. And then we are going to start. And we're going to start from lying down. If you have props nearby, just bring them somewhere where you can easily reach for them. Maybe somewhere next to you, next to your mat, next to your practice space. And then come into an easy resting pose. So we start in Shavasana pose. This could be any resting pose. If you don't want to lie down on your back, you might come lie down on your belly, or maybe come lie down on your side if that sounds like a better idea. If you have achy lower back, maybe leave your knees bent and let your knees, your thighs lean against each other. And then we're going to a few times sigh the breath out. So take a slightly deeper breath in and then just sigh the breath out. Couple more times. Inhale and sigh the breath out. I often use this kind of sighing breath to calm down, to relax, especially at night time. And you can use this kind of sighing breath at any point of the practice. I'll remind you of it a couple of times. But now after your last sigh, bring your hands, if you are lying down on your back, bring your hands onto your belly, onto your chest. So maybe one hand somewhere down on the belly, the other hand somewhere close to your rib cage. You can do this even if you're lying down on your side, or even if you're lying down on your belly, as long as you don't feel that you're squishing your hands, your arms. And then just start to focus on your breathing. Allowing the breaths to move down to your hands. Here you could imagine you're filling a cup with water. And it might be that your cup is filling from the bottom up. So first, breathing to the hand that's closer to your belly, and then letting the breath kind of expand to the hand that's closer to your chest or ribs. Or maybe your cup feels the other way. Maybe you first feel the breath in that top hand that's closer to your chest, and then the breath slowly slides down towards the belly. Both ways are equally good, equally correct. There's no right or wrong way. Just encouraging yourself to feel the breath more than thinking about your breath. Just letting yourself feel that subtle opening, that subtle expansion as you breathe in. And the sinking in, the release as you breathe out. Maybe you want to do a couple of sighing breaths here as well. And give yourself maybe another 5 breaths here in your Shavasana pose. Feeling the breath. And each breath might be different than the previous one. Don't feel that you need to fix your breathing. Allow it to change. Allow it to keep changing. We're more just observing and feeling the breath. And then if you have hands on your body, you can slowly let them come down, maybe on the floor, on the mat. And if you are lying down on your belly or lying down on your side, just slowly bring yourself onto your back and slowly bend your knees so that you step your feet on the mat. We're going to come into a few poses, but like I said, we're not so focused on the poses. The poses are just tools for us to feel the body and let the body relax. More, let yourself focus on the breath. Once you have found your way onto your back, we start to make our way into a twist, a reclining, open twist. And you have an option here to cross your legs, the eagle legs. So if you want, you could now cross your left leg, the left thigh on top of the right, like sitting at the desk and you're crossing your legs on top of each other. Or you have also option to not cross your legs. This is completely up to you. Slowly start to release your both legs towards the right side of your mat. And this is where you could bring now a prop, a cushion, a pillow, maybe a bolster under your legs. So you lean your legs onto something to make the pose maybe a bit more relaxed, a bit more easy on the back, on the hips. Of course, if having a prop under the leg doesn't feel good, you are very welcome to bring your legs all the way down onto the floor, onto the mat. And even if you chose those crossed legs in the beginning, if it doesn't feel good here, you're very welcome to change. Another way to use some props is to bring a pillow, a bolster between the legs. And again, that might make it more comfortable on your hips, on your back. You can choose your option. And then come back to the breath. Again, a few sighing breaths in and out. So breathe in through the nose. And then sigh the breath out. If you want, you could close your eyes. And then I'm going to suggest a way to focus on the breath, which is counting each breath in and out. So counting the length of your inhalations, exhalations, just to keep the mind focused on the breath. So just continue with your natural, relaxed breathing in and out. And then start counting the length of each inhalation. And also count the length of each exhalation. Again, the length of your breaths might change. Maybe not each breath is the same length. You can allow that changing pattern in your breath. Or it could be that you find a rhythm that it's comfortable for you to follow. Maybe each inhalation is about the same length. For example, 4 counts. Maybe each exhalation finds a similar length as well. For example, 5 counts, 6 counts. I suggest having minimum same count for the exhalation as you have for your inhalation. Because the exhalation is often the calming part of our breath cycle. So we encourage the exhalation to be either the same length or maybe even longer than the in-breath. We'll stay here about another 5 breaths. Counting the breaths. And you can always add those sighing breaths into the breath cycle as well if you find that it's more releasing, more relaxing. When you come to the end of your 5 breaths, I suggest leaving legs where they are, leaning to the right, and slowly start closing your chest, start curling to the right side. So that if you have props to put aside, you can do that. If you have your legs crossed, release that crossing here. And then slowly slide back onto your back. After a few breaths, we're going to come into that twist on the other side. Now, if you need to move any props to a different place to prepare for the twist, this would be a good moment to move those props. And then if you want to cross your legs for those eagle legs, those twisted roots legs on the other side, bring your right leg on top of the left, so crossing the legs, or just leave the legs next to each other. And you can make a different choice on the second side. And then start to lean your legs to the left side. Again, it might be nice to have something under the legs, like a pillow or a bolster. Or at this point, you might notice you want to change the crossing in your legs. Or maybe bring a pillow or bolster between the legs. But once you have found your shape, your pose, you can come back to your breath. And a few times, sigh the breath out. Inhaling through the nose. And sigh the breath out. You can sigh either through the mouth or through the nose. And after those few sighs, let your breathing relax, calm down. If you found counting the breaths helpful, like we did on the first side, you could go back to counting your breaths, and you can ignore what I'm going to suggest next. Or if you'd like to try something different, here, especially if you are maybe a more visual person, you might enjoy visualizing your breath moving along a shape, along a pattern. I like to use the shape of a wave so that as I breathe in, I visualize the breath moving up along the wave to the top of the wave. And then as I breathe out, I imagine the breath sliding down along the wave to the bottom of the wave. So inhaling up the wave and exhaling down along the wave. It might be a symmetrical wave, but I quite like the shape of a wave because often it's not symmetrical. The exhalation might be longer than the inhalation. And also you have time to surf the wave, so you might spend a bit longer time at the top of the wave, almost like holding the breath in for a little moment, or just resting at the end of the inhalation before breathing out. And again, you might spend a bit of time at the bottom of the wave. Sometimes people like to almost hold their breath a little bit after the exhalation, or I like to think of just resting at the end of the exhalation before starting the next breath cycle. Again, we'll spend maybe another 5 breaths here. Just breathing up and down along the waves. When you come towards the end of your 5 breaths, again, leave your legs leaning to your left and slowly start to close your chest. So now we are curling towards the left side, towards the legs. If you have props there that you need to move aside, you can push them aside. You can uncross your legs and then stay leaning onto your left side. Stay resting on your side a few breaths. We still have another pose. Again, it's just a tool. The pose is just a tool. We're more going to focus on the breath. When you feel ready to continue into this one more pose, bring yourself first into a brief seat and then onto all fours. We're going to come into child's pose. So if you have pillows, bolsters there that you might want to use, you could, for example, bring your pillows, bolsters in front of you and then lean your pelvis towards the feet. Now take a moment to adjust the legs wider apart or closer together. so that you can comfortably lean the pelvis down and then lean your upper body forward, maybe onto a pillow, onto a cushion. If you feel the hips, the knees are sensitive here, you could also use a prop like a pillow between the legs or under the knees. But you don't have to use any props. As you lean your head down, feel free to lean head to one side or the other. Or you might lean your head just down to the mat or onto your hands. Let yourself find some ease in the shape, in the pose. And then bring your mind back to your breath. Again, a few sighs out. And then let yourself just notice the breath. So here in this last pose, maybe you're just breathing, observing the breath. Or if you want, you can go back to any of the techniques, the little tricks that we've been practicing. You might focus on feeling your breath. Feel it moving down towards the belly, towards your ribs, towards your chest, like filling a glass as you're breathing in, and then emptying the glass as you're breathing out. Or maybe you enjoy more counting the breaths. Just counting the length of each inhalation, each exhalation. Or you might visualize your breath riding along those waves. But also feel free to just stay here without any specific tool with your breath and just let yourself breathe. Notice the breath. And we could spend another about 5 breaths in this child's pose. And then after those 5-ish breaths, slowly, from your child's pose, start to bring yourself maybe onto hands and knees first, or into a seat. We are going to come back down into a resting pose. You might come lie down on your belly. You might come lie down on your side or lie down on your back. Which one feels like an easy pose where you feel you could find some rest, an easy pose? I can feel free to use some pillows, bolsters, blankets here to make the pose very comfortable as possible right now. And let the body, let the breath just rest here. I'm going to stay with you another couple of minutes, but mostly in silence. And then I'll slowly fade away, but you can continue your resting pose much longer, as long as you feel that is needed now. Once more, notice your breath. Now just observing the breath. How it slides in and slides out. Let's spend another 5 breaths together. Then you can either slowly end your practice or you might continue your resting pose. Thank you for joining in the practice. Namaste.